Rock and roll was never meant to be brain surgery. At its heart, it was raw, rebellious, and gloriously simple. A genre built on feeling, not formulas. You could learn a handful of Chuck Berry riffs in an afternoon, but delivering them with heart on a live stage? That's where the magic and the challenge really began. Few artists understand that better than Dave Grohl, a man forged in the fire of grunge and raised in the shadow of punk. Grohl spent decades climbing through the ranks of rock's ever-changing landscape. And over the years, as he looked around at the state of modern music, one question kept echoing in his mind: where did all the fun go? Of course, Grohl didn't exactly emerge from a sunny chapter in rock history. Nirvana, the band that introduced him to the world, channeled its energy through the tortured genius of Kurt Cobain. Their shows teetered on the edge of brilliance and breakdown. It was volatile, sometimes messy, and always deeply human. That unpredictability became a signature of the genre. Not everything needed to be polished or perfect. In fact, sometimes the beauty was in the imperfection. But after the grunge wave crested, something else began to rise in its place. Something darker, heavier, and far more commercial. Bands like Creed, Nickelback, and Days of the New took the pain and turned it into a product. Grohl watched as the sound of rock transformed, not necessarily into something worse, but into something safer, more manufactured. Foo Fighters, Grohl's own band, managed to survive that transition, largely because they never tried to fit the mold. While post-grunge acts doubled down on angst, Foo Fighters chased melody and energy. They didn't reject emotion, but they didn't drown in it either. Then came the age of nu metal, a new generation led by bands like Korn, Limp Bizkit, and Papa Roach stormed onto the scene. With them came a sound that was raw, aggressive, and to many ears, emotionally hollow. To Grohl, it felt like a distortion of what rock had once stood for. As he once said, with a lot of bands nowadays, the emphasis is placed more on becoming famous, becoming huge, rich rock people, rather than the actual music. He lamented the simplicity of it all, the lack of melody, the overused quiet loud dynamics that had become a formula. Not that ours is fucking rocket science, he added with a grin, but music used to challenge you. Still, Grohl wasn't blind to the exceptions. For every shallow act, there were artists who broke the mold. Bands like Deftones and Linkin Park carried the emotional weight of nu metal into more nuanced, artistic territory. And looking further back, Pantera's unrelenting energy had laid the groundwork for much of the genre's power, even if it was later misinterpreted. In the end, Grohl acknowledged that nu metal, much like disco before it, wasn't a monolith. There were tracks that deserved a permanent place in rock history, and others that belonged in the bargain bin. But when a great song broke through the noise, it could still stop you in your tracks. Because to Dave Grohl, rock and roll has always been more than just loud guitars and stage dives. It's about connection, emotion, and the willingness to feel, even when it's uncomfortable. And as long as there are bands chasing that feeling, no matter the genre, there's still hope for the soul of rock music.